Hello and welcome to Odoo Live. My name is Noel, Community Manager here at Odoo San Francisco. Today I'm joined by Vivek, one of our Senior Business Advisors, to talk about implementation strategies and how to successfully implement Odoo online. Welcome, Vivek.
Thank you, Noel. Always a pleasure to be here.
As always, if you have questions regarding today's topic, please leave us a comment or a question in the chat, and we will answer it at the end during our Q&A session. Additionally, if you would like to get in touch with us regarding other topics, you can always send us an email. We are at webinars@odoo.com, or to get in touch with Vivek directly. Vivek, what is your email address?
If you want to email me directly in regards to this presentation or any general questions about any of the applications or anything Odoo related, you can email me at vki@odoo.com.
Excellent. So with all that being said, go ahead and take it away, Vivek.
Thank you, Noel. So today's presentation is going to cover what Odoo feels would be the best strategies for a successful implementation, and specifically for Odoo Online. So either our SaaS or our PaaS, which is our Odoo.sh. If you are looking to implement Odoo Online, not Odoo Online, but Odoo On-Premise, then this webinar probably won't be very helpful for you because you'd be working directly with a partner, or you would be working with your own internal technical team, and so the strategies would be different and the implementation process would be different as well. Okay, so we'll begin. So today's agenda, we are going to cover a few items. We're going to cover who is Odoo Online For, the market, the demographic of the type of customer that would utilize the Odoo Online. Then we will go over the Quickstart methodology and our success packs. Success packs refer to the bulk of hours that you would purchase after you subscribe to Odoo. So you could be assigned a dedicated project manager, a consultant who would work on your project to get you live for production. Third, we will talk about how we at Odoo define how to successfully implement Odoo Online. Number 4, the results, some KPI information on the type of customer that implements Odoo and their success rates and some other pieces of information. And then finally, we will touch on Odoo.sh, which is our PaaS, our platform as a service, talk about the different features and the functions for that as well. And then finally, not written on the agenda, we will have a questions and answers, maybe 5 or 10 minutes Q&A session at the end of the presentation. All right, so let's begin. So who is Odoo Online For? So firstly, Odoo is designed for the small to medium-sized business. And we fit the budget, we fit the timeline, and one thing you should know about Odoo is that there's no industry focus. So it doesn't matter if you are in retail, if you're in the apparel business, if you're in the food business, agriculture business, whatever the case is, Odoo is not industry focused. It is general, and so any industry can use it. It doesn't matter if you're a manufacturer or a distributor or in a service industry. There are applications and there are features and configurations that will work for your industry. We will cover the user interface and companies that use Odoo. And so you can see here the user count usually for Odoo implementation can range anywhere from 1 to 2 users, so like a mom and pop business, or anywhere above 50, 60, 70 different users in the company. So let's talk about a few things. The pricing. Let's take a look at the pricing page to show you how transparent it is at Odoo. There we go. So at Odoo, if you want to know what your subscription cost would be based on the apps and the users that need to utilize Odoo, as well as the success packs that we talked about, you can access it from odoo.com/pricing, or you can also access it by coming to odoo.com, clicking on the pricing page, and you can access pricing from here, and the success pack, the implementation hours information from right here. And so Odoo's pricing is very transparent. So if you ever want to know what it would cost to have an Odoo database, to have a subscription with Odoo, you have some features that you can utilize right here. So for example, by default, it starts at the annual rate. But if I want to, I can switch to monthly to see the breakdown as well. And so what you would do is you would assess the number of users that would need to utilize Odoo. So for example, we will select 10 users. Here you can see the breakdown. It's $25 per month per user. And so Odoo will show you the original price at $30. And then it will show you the $5 discount that you will receive for those users to give you your total cost on the users, which is $250 right here. Then we can select some apps. And the beauty of Odoo is it really doesn't matter how many people are utilizing the application. If you have one person using CRM, it's $30 a month. If you have 50 people using CRM or 100 people using CRM, it's still $30 a month. We never do the multiplication between users and applications. Those two are always separate. And so we would just simply click the applications we're interested in using to get the price of our subscription. And if we want to see what it would take if we went to annual, because on annual you get 20% discounted, we can just switch to access that information. You're billed up front for the full year, but you get the breakdown, which you can see is clearly cheaper than the monthly cost. Okay? Same thing with the success packs. If you want to ever access to get information about how much it would take for implementation, cost-wise, or what exactly does this pack of hours entail? What are the things that Odoo will do for you if you buy a pack of hours? You can access that information from right here as well. Okay? So let's go back to the presentation. So that's pricing, applications. We already talked about it. There's no industry focus. You saw the pricing page. It's modular. You can scale up. You can start with one app or a couple of apps. And as your business grows, so can your Odoo as well. Let's take a look at the user interface. So here's the demo database. I'm just going to jump into any one of these applications. Let's start with CRM. And what I just want to show you, briefly touching on this application, for a reason specifically, is that in Odoo, especially during the implementation for training, one thing that a lot of our customers do appreciate with Odoo is the fact that once you figure out where things sit in a certain application, they sit in all the other applications. For example, the create, edit, import always sits in the top left. The name of the app above that. The menu items always in this top bar right here. Access to your notifications, your email, your account, your search bar, your filters and group bys always sit in the same place. It doesn't matter what application you're using or you're trying to learn. These features are always in the same place. They never change. Same with your views, always in the top right-hand corner. And so once you figure out where things sit in one of these applications, well, you've pretty much learned it in all the other ones as well. And I'll show you. So we were in CRM. I will jump into the projects app. Create, edit, import, right here. Search bar, filters, group bys, your menu items, the name of the application, access to notifications and your emails and your account, right in the same place. So all the applications, the formatting is homogeneous. You figure out where things sit in one app, you figure it out for most of them. Okay, so that's the user interface. All right, so let's move on to the next slide. Number 2, success packs and the Quickstart methodology. So our goal here at Odoo is to help you to get to production, to go live with Odoo within the defined time frame and budget. And that is obviously assessed firstly in pre-sales by your business advisor, but also after you guys sign on with Odoo and you've subscribed and you are assigned a project manager and you're getting implemented by Odoo, they will also define in the kickoff, in the very early stage, the first few calls, they will define what the expectations are on the time frame and the budget. And our goal is to make sure that we implement you and you are able to go live in the time frame that has been discussed and within the budget that you're comfortable with. Okay? And in production, the whole purpose is to make you independent and fully productive within Odoo. And so there's a couple of different implementation options, and different customers take different approaches. So we have our recommended success pack. So someone like myself at Odoo, a business advisor, or your business advisor would be the first one to give that accurate estimation of what it would take. Would it be 25 hours, 50, 100, 150, 200, and so forth. But also, they will work closely with the functional teams, with the professional services side. So before implementation happens, obviously your business advisor and you will have multiple conversations about how things operate, what are the possible solutions they will come up that would align your current flow with Odoo system. And then if customizations are needed, developments are necessary to make Odoo work for you, the full scale of what it might take, your business advisor will discuss with the functional teams ongoing and give you an accurate estimation of what it would take. And some people don't want to go with the recommended success pack. Maybe it's related to budget. Maybe it's related to the fact they have their own technical expertise. They have a technical team, or they're working with an outside IT person. And so they might need a smaller success pack. And why would they need a smaller success pack? Well, if it's not related to budget, it might be that they want to do some of the implementation alongside one of the Odoo analysts, alongside one of ours. And what that means is they might use the smaller pack. Maybe instead of 100 hours, we recommend they buy a 25 or a 50 hour. And how they'd utilize that is they might use it ad hoc, best practices. They're implementing, they're stumped, they're unsure about what to do. They need maybe some advice on a best practice, or they're unable to complete the flow, but they've done maybe 70% of it. They would call their implementation specialist, and the implementation specialist would help them through it. Maybe they plan to do their own data import to save time on the hours. And so they'd ask their implementation specialist, could you create the template for me? And I will do the rest. And so the smaller success pack usually means you're working side by side. You're doing homework after your meeting with the project manager, your implementation specialist. They might say, hey, could you please make sure you have your spreadsheets ready for your contacts import for next week's meeting? So you would go and take care of that information for your consultant, so they have it in your next meeting. So that's what usually the smaller success pack, the one that we don't recommend, but customers sometimes choose, either because of budget or because they're going to do partial implementation themselves, and they're just using the success pack for training, best practices, and for smaller things. And then the third type of customer we have are the ones that do the self-implementation. And so it's not uncommon that Odoo customers do self-implementation. We are a user-friendly platform, fairly intuitive as well, and a lot of end users are able to implement themselves. We provide you with the right tools, the documentation, webinars like we're doing right now, online training materials, and so forth. We even have functional support that customers can utilize for questions if they're stumped on the process. So those are the three types of implementation options. Varies from customer to customer and depends on a multitude of different variables. All right, let's take a look at the next one. So if you went to our pricing page and you clicked on the success packs, the top portion of this slide is pretty much what it would look like for you as the customer going onto the website. So at Odoo, success packs and Quickstart methodology, firstly, the success packs are broken into different categories. And so we have our basic pack, which is 25 hours. We have a 50-hour pack, a 100-hour pack, and a 200-hour pack. And that's not to say that if you wanted 150 hours, you couldn't get it. You could still receive a 150-hour pack. We would just take a 100-hour pack and multiply the quantity by 1.5 to give you that 150 hours. And so depending on your conversations with your business advisor in pre-sales, you would decide what pack of hours that you would purchase. And commonly for new customers, when you start up with Odoo, you have the ability to receive 25% discount for all new customers. So whatever the pack cost is that you see online, you can take off 25%, which we show you online as well, as a new customer to get that discounted rate. And so what is the success pack all about? So you get a dedicated Odoo project manager, your implementation specialist, who will be there for the whole implementation. And by dedicated, we mean you're not going to work with one consultant and then 3 sessions later, 3 meetings later, it's someone else on the other line of that meeting room. What it means is throughout the start, from the kickoff call through the onboarding, configuration, and you're up and ready live for production, you'll be working with one implementation specialist. And so what does the success pack give you? Well, a couple of different things. Analysis. You'll work with a dedicated consultant. They will do analysis on, coming up with strategies to implement your processes. How do you guys operate right now? What are the current systems in place? What do you guys do? What's the business? Is it service related? Is it manufacturing? And then they will decide based on the operations, the workflows that are currently in place, how that would align with the Odoo system. Do things need to be changed? Do things need to be removed? Maybe there's a process in place right now that you might feel is necessary, but it's actually causing you inefficiencies. And maybe your consultant will be able to remove some of those mundane processes or transfer them to a new style of doing business, which might actually save you time and make things a lot easier and simpler for you. Also, aside from the analysis, there's the configuration. And by configuration, each application, if you click into the application in your Odoo database, if you have a test database, you'll see it too. You click into the application, and the very last menu item, usually on the top right, will say configuration. You click on that, you click on settings, and then you have the ability to access features and functions that you can turn on by clicking the radio button and setting them up. And the consultant will do this. You will say, hey, this is how we run our sales teams. This is how we send quotes. These are how we build templates. These are how we configure our routings and our bill of materials in manufacturing. This is the locations in our inventory and so forth. And they will go into each application one by one, and they will configure the settings out of the box, the ones that pertain to your workflows. Data import. This usually actually takes a large chunk of the implementation hours, depending on how much importing you need to do. And so if you don't need to import 10 years of data, if anything past 3 years is kind of mundane, then we advise you not to, because that takes a large chunk of the hours. And so data import, your consultant can do. You will pull out the information from maybe your current system in a CSV or a spreadsheet. They would remap it to Odoo terminology, so the fields are understood by Odoo system, and they would bring it in, your records, your information into Odoo for you. Going forward, once you're done with implementation, you have access to those templates that they built for you. And so you'll get the training on it, and as soon as you need to do this for yourself, you'll have the template designed and built by your consultant. You would have the training to understand how importing works inside of Odoo. And so you would be autonomous. You'd be able to do it yourself. Training and coaching. Alongside with the configuration and setting up of an application comes training and coaching. And your consultant can record the training sessions for you, so you don't have to return back to them, use up more hours or minutes in your pack of hours on something that was maybe already addressed or answered previously. And so application by application, you would get a training. Your sales team would get a training on the CRM and the sales applications. The warehouse would get a training on inventory and shipping. Purchase manager would get, and the purchase team would get training on the purchase tool, and so forth. Once you get the training, we recommend that you have one point of contact, the advocate for the company. That person will pretty much learn everything on behalf of the company and be able to be autonomous and continue the training process if necessary down the road at a later time. Maybe several months later, you might have new employees. And so that advocate, that person who's our point of contact at your company that we're working with, will be able to continue the process with the training videos that we create for them, the templates that we create for them, and how we teach them how we've configured their database and so forth. Finally, a couple of more items on this slide. So customization. So customization can mean two things in Odoo. Firstly, the way we would work is we would set up your Odoo out of the box. We would, as much as possible, do the configuration with the standard settings. And at the end of that configuration, at the end of that implementation, if it's deemed that some things are necessary, you might be in a specific industry that has a specific industry niche field, a piece of information that's important to you that maybe other industries don't utilize. Well, we have what we call Studio. It's a fairly new application. It's a back-end editor, and it allows you to customize your Odoo without coding. So what you can do is you can, once you enable it in any one of the applications, it's in the top right corner. It's wrench and a screwdriver icon in the top right corner of any of your applications, or even in the front view of your Odoo database. Let's take a look at it real quick. This thing right here, it allows you to customize. It even allows you to build a new app from scratch. If you don't see an application in Odoo, it's very likely you can build it. And so this tool would be used after the basic implementation. Okay, so after they've done the basic standard setup, trainings, importing, configs, if you feel that to complete the business operation, the workflows, there's specific information, a field, you need to rename something because it's not terminology you use, or if you need a connection, a relationship between applications that you're not seeing right now out of the box, your project manager, your implementation specialist can utilize the Studio application to drag and drop, to customize for you, so the final pieces are configured as well. And finally, you have access to unlimited email support. We have a functional hotline as well, so you can submit tickets, you can submit questions, you can call them. Not only with functional support, you can do the same thing with your implementation specialist. You have a question, they gave you a training and then you realize you're unsure about something or you're having trouble finishing a workflow. Well, you can send them an email. They'll respond promptly because they're your dedicated project manager. Or you can pick up the phone and give them a call or send them a text and say, hey, you know what, do you have free time? I need to ask you a question or I need your help. They're happy to help. It's part of their job. Additionally, if you need developments, that also gets pulled from your pack of hours. With a caveat, you will be billed $5 per hour based on, so for example, 10 hours of development, excuse me, the 10 hours will be pulled from your pack of hours. And so if you had 100 hours, 10 of them is necessary for actual coding. Studio can't do the customization out of the box, doesn't do it. You need 10 hours of development to finish off the piece. So your production database is really, really ready and perfect for utilization for business. They would pull those hours out of the pack. And once they're processing and doing the developments for you, you would be charged of $5 per hour of development as a maintenance fee. So instead of being charged a big lump sum total whenever you need an upgrade or maintenance or you need to build something additional to what you already have built, instead of you getting billed a large chunky bill like in the thousands of dollars, we just charge you $5 per hour of development. So 10 hours, $50 a month added to your subscription cost. And we take care of all the upgrades, the maintenances, any sort of things that we need to do to upkeep that development, we will do it in-house for you at no additional cost outside of that $5 per hour of development. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Continue the success packs and Quickstart methodology. So what is implementation typically entail? So like I said, usually it's preferred that there's one point of contact, an advocate on your end, someone that will be able to at least meet up to 2 times a week. And we advise this because if there's multiple people working with the project manager, with the implementation specialist at Odoo, there might be some conversations lost in translation. There might be some lag time between sharing of information. And so we always recommend, if possible, have the same people involved. You might have 2 people, but they're always there at every meeting. That's totally fine as well. But typically we request that they're able to meet at least 2 times per week for at least an hour per meeting. And additionally, outside of being able to implement you remotely, while we do that here in Odoo San Francisco, you might be in New York, you might be in Seattle, whatever the case is, if you want the consultant to come on site, it's an option. It's an additional cost. It doesn't cost additional to your pack of hours, but you will be buying their round trip flight from San Francisco to your location, to your city, and you will be taking care of the hotel and their meals while they're at your location as well. Any Ubers, Lyfts, transportation, hotel, flight, and meals, and they can come to your location and implement in front of you. And that way, some people prefer that methodology because they feel maybe the training is more effective. The questions that they can ask more frequently. They don't have to worry about having to reach out to you to see if you have availability to talk for a few minutes. You're already there at their office. And so that's also an option that some customers of ours do utilize. And so the Quickstart methodology, we follow a dynamic and phase methodology in order to deploy Odoo progressively. And what that means is we work in phases. And by dynamic, we mean it's not a fixed process. So at your company, if you feel accounting is the first thing that's the most important thing that needs to be set up, we're not going to implement it in phase 3 like you see in the slide. We'll implement it in phase 1. So it really depends. It's subjective. It's business to business. What's most important to you? What are the modules that need to be up and running for production? We give you our recommendation. Usually at Odoo, we like to start with the front end, the customer facing end. So e-commerce, selling things online. We like to talk about setting up the sales process, your sales teams, your quotation templates, your products. Those are the things that we usually start off with. It's not necessary that we do start that way, but that's how we would recommend if you asked us what our best practices. We would say, okay, we'll start off with the e-commerce, your POS, your sales application, your product catalog, and then from there we might move to the secondary level, which would be where did those products come from so we can ship them to the customer that bought them, which was part of the sales process. So the inventory, or maybe we need to produce it after customer has reserved those items. We have reserved those items on a sales order, but we don't keep them in stock. We produce them. And so then we configure the manufacturing process, your BOMs, your routings, the work centers, where things are consumed, your variants, things of that nature would be configured in the manufacturing process. And if you're service related, we'd work on the projects app and timesheets, for example. If you're customer service oriented, help desk would be next in phase 2. And then what we recommend is usually after the sales process, the front end stuff like the e-commerce website is all complete. Then the secondary level items like the inventory, projects, timesheets, manufacturing, and so forth is complete. We go ahead and we set up the accounting. And like I said, this is a subjective process. If you decide it's more important for you to flip this around and start with accounting, we're happy to do it that way as well. Okay, and so this little image that we have kind of shows, aside from phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, horizontally shows the process when you work with your implementation specialist, your project manager. First things first, your very first conversation will be the kickoff call. In the kickoff call, some things like expectations, what you should expect from your project manager, what you should not expect from your project manager, what your project manager should expect from you, like being available at least 2 times a week if possible, and being available for an hour each session. Those are things that will be brought up in the kickoff. Then we have the onboarding. Onboarding will be the analysis, strategy, scope. What do we need to configure to make this work for you? Is there any customization required? So at this point, it's just analysis. They're not actually doing anything. Those are the things that will be taken care of in this stage. Then we move on to the data, to the configs, importing. And then finally, there's training. And these things can be done side by side. The trainings can be recorded for you, like I mentioned, so you can access them at any given time. Finally, once the kickoff, the onboarding, the analysis, the scope and strategy, the import, the configs, the settings are all taken care of and you've gotten your trainings. If you deem that you need customization, for example, you need to utilize Studio to add an industry niche field, or you need a relationship between 2 objects that don't already relate to each other out of the box, well, your project manager, your implementation specialist, will do those customizations using Studio. And so no coding is required. Even you, the end user, can be trained to use Studio yourself. And so if the customizations cannot be done using Studio, this final piece, before you're up and running for production, developments would take place. So the technical team here at the Odoo office in San Francisco would also build the development, and then once it's created, obviously you will do the testing to make sure everything is in order. If it's good, it's added into your database. And then you have your full production database, whether it's out of the box or a combination of out of the box and customization, ready to use for your business. And the final section right here on that arrow horizontal line is support. Once you're up and running for production, your project manager can be utilized for support. If you have hours left over, if you bought a 100-hour pack and you've only used 80 hours for implementation and you're live, you still have 20 hours. Those hours never expire. When you add more apps, you scale up. When you add more users, when you switch version to version and you want to know about the new features, how best to use them, you can send an email, pick up the phone, and call your project manager, your implementation specialist, and they're happy to help because you still have those hours left over. Okay? You don't have to use them for support. If you want, you can use our functional support as well, which doesn't take any hours out of your pack. The difference is functional support will not do a full implementation. They will not do several things at once. What you'll have to do is you submit a support ticket with your question. Maybe you don't know how to configure a certain process in the application. Maybe you can't complete the workflow. You send them the ticket, the information, and usually same day they respond to you with the solution. And sometimes you even get a training video with it. All right. Next slide. How to successfully implement Odoo Online. So like we mentioned earlier, we prefer to choose one single point of contact for the Odoo implementation. The purpose is we want to be able to train the trainer. If that one point of contact, or maybe it might be 2 points of contact, always at the same meetings, they get the training from us. They're up to speed. They understand how Odoo system works, how the different objects relate to each other, how to do the importing. Well, now that they have the tools, they're autonomous. And that's the whole purpose of implementation, is not just to set up your database for production. It's to prepare you, the end user, the admin, the person who is going to be in charge of the Odoo database for the company. So they are ready to take on the task of training other people in the company, bringing other people up to speed. Like we mentioned, if possible, available up to 2 full days a week. Authority to make decisions. If the person who's the point of contact has to always refer to another person in the company, that can slow down the process of the implementation. That can add time. It could pull out more hours from your pack and so forth. So if the person who is going to be the point of contact at your company has the authority to make the end decision on how we should configure something or how we should set something up in the system, whether or not we should import X amount of historical data, that would be the preferred method. And obviously that person should have the full support from all departments. They should be the advocate for Odoo, but also someone that has the ability to kind of communicate regardless of department, and is also someone that has the ability to have good communication, to be able to share the information with those people. So things to keep in mind. At Odoo, we try to do things the Odoo way, if possible. What we don't like to do is we don't like to replicate your previous software system. So if you're using several different single apps and you're trying to have Odoo do the exact same or you're using a previous legacy ERP system, before you move to Odoo, and you're trying to have Odoo recreate every single flow, every single workflow is done in your old system should be done the same way in Odoo. That's not something we recommend. Odoo is Odoo, your old system is your old system. And this is a perfect time for you to start fresh. And by fresh, we mean you're learning a new software, you're learning a new ERP system. And so maybe some of the things that you might have in place, you might be used to them. It might be a habit to want those things in place, but your consultant might find ways to save time, make things simpler, streamline things. And what we recommend is you integrate 90% of your business the way you do it, not 100%. And if things need to be changed, 10% to the Odoo way of doing things. If you're flexible, those customers have the highest success rate. Okay? And we will obviously always suggest workarounds. It's not like we'll tell you, hey, you can't do this workflow in that 10%. We will show you the Odoo way of doing that workflow. Okay? All right, let's move on. Customization. So we briefly touched on it. Custom development. We prefer to wait till the end. We configure things out of the box, like we mentioned. You utilize the database when you're testing to make sure everything's working properly. If you feel something is missing, like an industry field, a specific relationship between applications, a smart tab that you wish was on an object, like a contact record, your consultant can do it using Studio, the customizing tool. And that's what we prefer. If possible, we do it out of the box. If you need some things changed to fit your needs, we'll do it with Studio, the backend editor. And then, if neither of those two options work for you and you still require some things to make the process in Odoo work, there is the option of development as well. Okay? Like I mentioned, always try to start with Odoo out of the box, move to Studio, and if those two things don't work, there is the option to do some light development in-house at Odoo as well. Stay simple. That's our methodology. That's our motto. We want to stay simple, and we want you, if possible, to implement a simpler and smarter business process. And so, for example, a good example in this particular aspect is, you might want to bring in 10 or 20 years of historical data, like past invoices that are already paid. They're not open. And so we might ask you, do you need to reference these past 10-year-old invoices inside of Odoo? You might find that there's no use for it. You might access it only once every year or once every couple of years when you might need to access it because you're getting audited. Well, maybe you should save it on a zip. Maybe you should save it in an app that you create using Studio, your project manager will create, just to dump the old historical data in, not to add it into accounting, for example, or add it into sales. Because in Odoo, everything is integrated. And so what you do in one place may affect something in a different place. Or it may slow down the system because you have 500,000 records that are past old records. So we will challenge you, your business advisor, your project manager, your implementation specialist, will challenge you to see whether there is any business sense in actually importing lots and lots of historical data. Is it a priority for the company growth? If not, then maybe it might not be so important. Will it slow things down? Will it junk up the system? Well, if it does, maybe it's not the best idea to have 10 years of data brought into the system. Maybe you just need 3 years of data brought into the system. It will save time on your hours. It will save time on your implementation. It will keep your database cleaner, and it will make things simpler, which is the whole purpose, is to use the Quickstart methodology to do most of the things that you do the way you do it. Tweak things a little bit if it's not available in Odoo out of the box or using Studio. And if possible, try not to import lots and lots of historical data unless it's necessary. If it's not necessary and you just want it there so you can access it, maybe you should put it somewhere else to access it and keep your database clean. Okay? All of this can obviously add expense and complexity, just like we mentioned. All right. So how to successfully implement Odoo Online? Continued. So on your end, what you need to do to make sure it's a smooth implementation is to try to get up to speed as much as possible. Obviously, not everything can be learned by yourself, and that's the whole purpose of having an implementation specialist, is to also give you the trainings. But additionally, if you do want to save hours on your back, if you do want to save time, while you're waiting to be assigned an implementation specialist, which could be roughly anywhere from 1 business week to 2 business weeks before you're assigned, and your business consultant, your implementation specialist, will email you to schedule a meeting, you might want to utilize some of the free resources that we give you, like the online documentation. You go to Odoo.com, our website, there's a tab. You can click on it. It says Docs, and you can access the documentation for applications based on app to app. So there's a dashboard for CRM. Click into it. There's documentation feature by feature, how to set up your pipe, how to build a quotation, how to create a product, and so forth. You need inventory documentation, you click into the inventory dashboard and you'll get all feature by feature documentation, step by step on how to set it up. Well, if reading documentation doesn't work for you and you prefer visual documentation, well, if you buy a success pack with Odoo, you have the ability to access our e-learning platform. It's 1-year access is $1,000 value With the Success Pack, you get it for free. And just like the online documentation, it's designed like a dashboard, app to app. You click into one of the application dashboards, like the CRM, for example. It will open up mini videos, usually ranging anywhere between 1-2 minutes to 10-12 minutes. And it will break it down in video format how to configure and set up a specific feature in a specific app. And there's an e-learning platform dashboard for dozens of different applications that you can utilize. Okay. We also have webinars, just like we're doing right now. We have webinars that are based app to app, feature to feature, sometimes industry to industry. How to configure your warehouse if you're a food distributor, how to set up your manufacturing processes if you are in the jewelry business, or so forth, things of that nature. And so there are tons and tons of webinars available to you on YouTube. And if you subscribe to the Odoo channel, it's easier to access those videos. And in the top right, or in the mid page on the right hand side of the Odoo channel, there's a search bar where you can just type in, for example, accounting, and all the accounting related videos will pop up. Manufacturing in that search box, and all the manufacturing videos will pop up. And then, very important, is to spend time practicing. You can take your paid subscription production database that your implementation specialist is working on, and ask them to make a duplicate of it. So it has all the same applications that you have in your production. You can use that for testing, play around, do a workflow, create a record, use Studio, play around with it. You can create as many test databases on your paid database as you need, and practice. Practice makes perfect. If you can, play around with the sandbox environment as much as possible. Not only will it help you learn, but it will definitely help you to have more questions when you're working with your project manager. If you don't play around with the system, you might not know too much about it, too much of the application, and so you might not have good questions to ask your project manager. So practice makes perfect. All right, next. Results, number 4. So at Odoo, every month we start about 50 new implementation projects, 50 or more. And by 50 or more, we are referring to implementation projects that we do. So hundreds of projects are started every month. Some are done by our partners. We have over 1,000 partners that work with us at Odoo. Some projects, maybe in the hundreds, are implemented every month around the world by people implementing themselves, the self-implementation style. But here at Odoo, whether it's here in our San Francisco office, our India office, our Hong Kong office, our Dubai office, or any one of our 3 offices in Europe, we start about 50 plus implementation projects every single month. Okay, and we have 4 Quickstart teams. And by Quickstart teams, we mean the professional services, the project managers, and the implementers. On average, a company that starts implementing with Odoo and is using Odoo as a subscribed customer, on average, they are utilizing about 6 or 7 applications. And the most popular pack of hours that is purchased is the custom, the 100-hour pack that you can use for implementation. And like we mentioned in the beginning of this presentation, the hours never expire. So they buy the 100 because you get a discount on that first pack of hours, the 25% discount for new customers. And some people, they prefer to overestimate, have hours left over, primarily in case it ends up that they run out of hours, they buy that second pack at full price. And so this way it leaves a buffer for them where they still have extra hours at a discounted rate. Okay, average time for implementation. Well, at Odoo, depending on the scale, the size of the project, whether it's a mom and pop, 1-2 users, 1-2 applications, or it's a fairly large project, 50 users plus, 20, 30, 40 applications. Very subjective, it varies, but if you are interested in a kind of a rough number, usually, for the most part, on average, it takes about 3 months to 6 months to fully implement a business so their database is ready to go live, so they can use it for business. And some KPIs on the success rate of our implementation teams. 92.5% success rate. So this is maybe the number 750 is very small because at the time we created this slideshow, it was a little while back. That's a much larger number right now. And 92.5% success rate is a fantastic KPI. Very good KPI. Majority of the customers are happy with the implementation process, and they're using Odoo happily to run their day-to-day operations. So let's talk about the final piece before we jump into the Q&A. Odoo.sh. It's fairly new, and unlike the SaaS, the regular Odoo Online, the software as a service, we have the PaaS, platform as a service. And so what does that entail? Well, it's almost a hybrid. It's a hybrid of the open source on-prem solution where you have access to the source code and you have the ability to kind of change the features, the layout of Odoo outside of Studio or outside of us doing developments for you. Mixed with the SaaS, the online. So it's a combination. We're hosting, we're maintaining, we're taking care of upgrades, giving you the support, but at the same time, you have access to do developments, access to the source code, where you can fork your production database, you can test it using Odoo dummy data. Finally, you can stage it using your own data, and if the developments, the changes to the code work, and you've done the testing enough where you have determined that there will be no issues, you can merge it back with your production database, and now that new developed feature exists in the branch of your production database. And so it's a full stack platform with the back-end coding for anyone, obviously someone with technical expertise, and there's a GitHub integration with your own runbot. And so your Odoo.sh will be deployed on your GitHub environment if you're doing the developments. If we are doing the developments, it's probably best practice that we deploy SH on Odoo's GitHub repository. What is the purpose? We already mentioned it's designed for developers and system admins. Basically, it's advanced testing capabilities, development capabilities, staging capabilities, and you have one more thing that you can't do on the SaaS database, on your regular online database, which is access any one of our third-party applications. And so if you go to Odoo, you'll see we make tons of applications in-house ourselves. But the total scope of the apps available in Odoo is actually 17,000 plus applications, many of which are designed by our Odoo Community Association, like-minded developers, Odoo fanatics, people with technical expertise, but also by any one of our partners. So we have over 1,000 partners at Odoo worldwide, and any one of those partners could develop a module, their IT companies, so they can develop a module. Maybe it's an industry niche module. Maybe that partner specializes in building integrations, connectors. Maybe this partner specializes in POS niche modules that kind of fill in the piece of the puzzle that might be missing if you're just using the regular applications in Odoo. Maybe there's some piece that we don't have that you need for your business operations. It's very likely you'll find it in the extended app stores with the 17,000 apps. And so if you need to utilize any third-party application, either by the Odoo community or by a partner, you need to be on Odoo.sh. It's the only option. So a third-party module, advanced testing and staging, developments, GitHub integration with your own runbot, and full stack platform with access to the code. Thank you.
All right. Excellent. Thank you for that presentation, Vivek.
You're welcome.
It looks like it was very thorough. And so right now, we have a few questions from one of our viewers here, Camilo Guevara G. First one is, do I own and have full access to the database if I want to do any kind of integration directly with the database?
It's a good question. Own the rights. Let's talk offline. There might be some caveats involved. It might not be as simple as you did the development and now that, that development is, you have the full legal rights to it. It depends. I feel you might have to become a partner of Odoo to resell Odoo, white label it, change the structure. Maybe you might use Odoo and say, you know what, I'm going to create my own ERP for the automotive industry. And with your development team, you use Odoo framework, the backend structure, and you design and build a specific industry niche ERP system. Well, if you're a partner, you can resell and you own that. If you're not, I'm not sure if you have the legal rights to the developments in a database that's hosted by us. But if it's on-prem and you're doing it off of community, I believe you do.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. And then finally, follow-up. So is sort of a general question regarding the differences between Odoo Online and Odoo Platform as a Service. Is Odoo Online for small, medium enterprises and Odoo Pass for big companies?
Not necessarily. It's usually not. Well, there is obviously a little bit of budget in play because if you go on SH, it's an add-on. And so you might have your users and apps and it might be X amount of dollars. But now you're on SH and it's going to cost you maybe an additional ranging between $150 and $250 a month extra, depending on the number of workers you need, the storage space, and the number of staging branches that you need for development. But essentially, you could be one user, few apps, but you're a developer. You have technical expertise. You might want to utilize Odoo.sh to do your own in-house developments, to create maybe some custom module that's to your industry niche. You might not have a big budget or you might not be a big customer, but you need access to do the developments and test them. You'd be on SH. Some customers are ours, we have very big customers, hundreds and hundreds of users, dozens of applications. They're on the SaaS. They're not utilizing the PaaS. They're not utilizing SH. What really is the reason of whether you need to be on SH or not is whether you need to do your own developments and have access to the code.
Excellent. All right. Well, great. I think with that, it looks like that'll be wrapping it up for us here. So I'd like to thank you all again for watching. Thank you again, Vivek, for presenting today.
Always. Thank you, Noel, for having us here.
Of course. If you have any additional questions, perhaps not related to today's topic, once again, you can always send us an email. We are at webinars@odoo.com. Or if you'd like to get in touch with Vivek directly, Vivek, what is your email address?
My email address, once again, is vki@odoo.com. And if you want, you can schedule a demo directly with me using the link below that, odoo.com/r/demo-vkir.
Excellent. Well then, I think don't forget, if you would like to get more information or to meet us in person, you can always check out our website, which has a listing of all of the Odoo tours that are happening in this country and all around the world. You can find that at odoo.com/events. And Vivek, have you been to any recently? Have any coming up?
Not coming up, but I just did one 2 weeks ago. I was the host and presenter for the Houston event.
Yeah.
The Odoo Houston event. I did San Diego a couple of months before that, Reno also around the same time. And I've done Dallas, Austin, and the one that we had in San Jose as well. So I've done, I think, 6 of the road shows so far.
Yeah, so I mean, there are plenty of opportunities to get in touch with us and meet us in person. Once again, that website is odoo.com/events. Finally, don't forget to like and subscribe so we can continue making these webinars for you all, and especially if you found it useful. So before we go, Vivek, is there anything else you'd like to add before we head out?
Thank you, everyone, for being part of today's presentation. Feel free to reach out to me if it's regarding Odoo implementation, but also if it's not regarding what we talked about today. It's anything. You're interested in becoming an Odoo customer. You're interested in learning more and seeing what the system can do, or you need to utilize and get a training on an application that you might want to purchase from us. Feel free to email me or schedule a meeting with me.
Excellent. Well, then from all of us here at Odoo San Francisco, enjoy your weekend. We'll see you all next time.
Thank you.